Hello everyone. Today is March 26th. It is a decent sunny day. My name is Erin. I'm going to be your host, and welcome to the Anatomy of Knitting podcast. In this episode, I'll give a bit of thanks. I'll talk about what's been on and off the needles. I'll talk about some spinning, and then I'll do a little bit of stash enhancement. So let's get started. So first, a bit of thanks. I'd like to thank Franciscan Gypsy for the lovely iTunes review that you gave me, so thank you. And then in this section, I'd also like to include a little administration. I forgot totally to talk about this in my last podcast, and I wanted to make sure that I did that in this podcast. So, one thing that I've decided to do is not to do show notes on the show website anymore. I've decided I'm just going to post the YouTube video like I did last week. And the reason for this is that all the little subtitles that I'm putting down, when I don't forget to put information in like I did with this dark and stormy cardigan last week, that takes quite a bit of effort, and I felt like I was doing it like 8 gazillion times when I was doing it both in the show and the show notes. So from now on, any sort of links that I mention, any information about the projects, it's all going to be listed in those subtitles. And then the other thing is I'm going to do sort of a modified show schedule. With the data storage that I have with Libsyn, I have 600 I think it's megabytes of storage, and about every episode that I'm producing is, I can compress it down to about 200, so I've decided to aim for about 3 shows a month. That way it gives me a weekend buffer somewhere in that month to, relax, take a break, do stuff around the house, or do, something for the podcast, but not necessarily record. So that's going to be the show schedule from now on, is 3 podcasts a month. And I haven't achieved that with this month because the first 2 podcasts that I produced, the file sizes were too big. I think they're about 400 and then 250 megabytes a piece. So I kind of had to wait a little bit to produce another podcast. But from now on, 3 shows a month, so yay! So, what's been on the needles? Mainly I've just been working on 2 things this month, and then just to give you a warning, I do have a couple of feline co-stars that are walking around the room, so you may hear them, but hopefully not. So the first thing on the needles that I have is the German yarn stockinette socks that I've been working on. And you'll remember that this is this sock here. It's the Lana Grossa Millenweit 100 Wave, and I think the 100 Wave is the way that it's dyed. I think that's the name for all the yarn that's kind of dyed in this way. So this is my finished sock that I have, and I had that last week. And so what I have gotten done this week is I cast on the second sock, I knit the cuff, I did the slip stitch heel, I did the heel turn, and now I'm working on the gusset. And I was working on this when I was watching the Mad Men premiere last night. That is excellent knitting knitting TV. And I think I have maybe 3 more decreases to go on the gusset here, and then I'll be able to go with the foot. And once I get to the foot part of the sock, it's usually pretty quick, so I'm going to have to look at my stash and see what the next stockinette sock is going to be, which is pretty exciting. I haven't yet washed this sock to see if the yarn changes. I did get a comment on the Ravelry board about maybe the yarn will change once it's washed, and hopefully that's the case. It feels like there is a fair amount of like spinning oil kind of in here. Like it just feels like it's been tamed into submission. I usually don't wash my socks until I'm done with both of them, just so I treat them both the same. So once I'm done with the other sock, I'll wash these. And so that's that project. And again, I'm knitting this on US 1 needles, and those are the Knit Picks fixed circular needles that I'm knitting those on. And then the second thing that I've been actively working on is the Dunedin vest. And you'll remember last week I had the picture over here of the back and the back collar treatment blocking. So those finished blocking, and I actually sewed that back collar treatment to the back there. So it looks like it's going to fit. It might be a little, well, no, it's about meeting up with the seams of the shirt that I have on right now. The yarn did stretch a little bit when I washed it. And I will admit that I did not wash my swatch when I knit it, which is very bad of me. I will admit. But what I think I'm going to do is a trick that the Knitmore girls have, and they if the yarn kind of stretches out, they tend to put it in the dryer with no heat and let it tumble for a little bit, and then that tends to kind of get things back, kind of not really shrunk down, but shrunk down a little bit. So that's the back, and there's the twisted cables here look really, really awesome. So there's the bottom hem part. I'm really pleased with the way it's turned out in this yarn. And then so I've got all my ends woven in for the back piece, which I'm really proud of. So that's the back piece. It's a lot of stockinette stitch. And I just took off the other piece from the blocking board. And that's the front piece here. And this one has all of it's still very, as I like to call it, endy. You can see I haven't sewn in my ends there. But there's the front. So like I said before, if I wasn't super clear, I did, once I recorded the podcast, during the podcast, you know, I was ripping this out. So I used the most recent download, and these horizontal pieces that you can see there, I didn't have to reknit those, but I did have to reknit this middle piece. And you can see that once you get that middle piece, you know, knit about that much, you then join here and then knit the rest of the way up. So it's a little more, you can see a little better when I have the whole thing finished. All the ends are wrapping around me. So what's next is that when I am finished podcasting and I have everything, you know, compressing and uploading and everything, I'm going to sew in the ends for the vest here, which looks like it's going to fit really well and look pretty flattering. So I'm going to sew in these ends, and hopefully I'll be able to finish that while everything is compressing on the computer, and then I can sew the two pieces together. And then I think there's some treatments, Scout, there's some treatments here that you do on the V-neck and then on the armholes. And I think that's about it for the finishing of the piece. So this should be finished by the time I record next week, which is going to be exciting. I'll have to find a nice button, like a white, crisp button-down shirt to go with that vest. Let's see, so I talked about those two things. And then the last thing is I haven't really done anything for my mom's vest. I was going to try and, when I had the pieces, honey, oh, she's found a little something to knock around. I haven't done anything for my mom's vest. The sizing is off. I need a size for her that's going to be in between the two sizes that are in the pattern. There's like a 4-inch difference between sizes, and so I can do either the 35 1/4 or the 39 1/4. The 35 1/4 is too small, and I've noticed that in the pattern, in the magazine, it's on a model, it's with positive, this vest has positive ease, which means that the circumference of the model is smaller than the circumference of the vest. So I think I'm going to have to end up doing some math to get a size that's more appropriate for my mom, because if I knit the 39 1/4, she's just going to be swimming in that, and that's not flattering. And I did get gauge right on when I washed my swatch and everything. So Isolde Teague has a really good explanation of how to change patterns, work the math so it works for you. I haven't completely finished reading that section, and so I'd like to, and then work on resizing that vest for my mom. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty easy process to do that. It's got, so the most complicated part will be that cable part in the middle, kind of waist section. I'll just have to make sure that the number that I have corresponds with the number of repeats and the stitches that are needed for the repeats. So say it needs 7 stitches, I'll have to make sure that my circumference number is divisible by 7. So that's going to be the only complicated part. The other part is just stockinette, and that's going to be easy to fiddle with sizing wise. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more to talk about with that. It sounds like this project is going to be a really good learning opportunity for me. Hopefully by learning opportunity, that doesn't mean like I'm going to wish I never knit it. So, but I'm kind of looking forward to the challenge because, I mean, it's just yarn. If I mess it up, I just rip it out and start over. So, those are all of the things. Let me just double check my notes. I have a couple of pages. Yes. That's everything that I wanted to talk about that's on and almost on the needles. So now what's been off the needles? The first thing that I'm going to talk about are my stockinette socks here. And I'm calling these my Good Mojo socks. I did sort of break my rule of putting on wearing socks before I show them on the podcast. I had a procedure last Tuesday, so just about a week ago, and I decided I was so close to finishing these because I took these to a movie and knit like the entire foot while I was at the movie. So, and then when I got home, I decided, like, I'm going to quickly knit the toe, and then I'll have Good Mojo socks for the procedure. So, these are the Alchemy Yarns Juniper in the Autumn Ecstasy colorway. I knit these using the US 1 needles that I'm now using in the Lana Grossa ones. Basic Aran sock. And I think I've told this before. It's the 1 inch of 1x1 ribbing, a stockinette cuff, slip stitch heel, gusset, and then stockinette stitch foot and a wedge toe. And they're nice and warm and really cushy, and I'm really happy with the way they've turned out. So that's finished object number 1, and then number 2 you can see. This is my Dark and Stormy cardigan. Let me see if I can turn around so you can see the back there. Hopefully, I know when I post-processed the last podcast that you couldn't exactly see the gorgeous detail on the back because of the compression. It was very boxy. So hopefully, and I think it was the color that the camera couldn't deal with, or the post-processing compression couldn't deal with. And the funny thing is that I didn't actually put on the buttons until about 2 days ago because I knew I was going to be recording today, and I thought I am going to, and hopefully you can see the buttons now, I am not going to sew these on until I absolutely have to, because I just hate sewing on buttons. They're not fun. So I think you can see those. I can kind of see my fingers reflecting in the lens there. Let's see. Is it a successful sweater? I don't know. It's warm. It functions just fine. I'm not sure the shawl collar is kind of my thing. It's very fussy. I have a mirror over there so I can kind of see, you know, it looks good now, but that's because I sort of preened myself to have it look good. The sleeves are a little long. I know I can rip that out, but I kind of like long sleeves. That's not a bad thing. The yarn I was not happy with. There were a lot of knots and a lot of weird areas where the spinning wasn't consistent in the yarn, so I'd have to cut that out, and so there were a lot of ends to weave in. I'm not sure. I know that I've done some raglan shaping sweaters, you know, where it's a one piece and it starts from the top and it's raglan shaping. I'm not sure that's the most flattering sweater for my body. So I think it was kind of a fail on my part for choosing to make this sweater. It was a good learning opportunity. I did the tubular bind off on the shawl collar and the cuffs, which you can see there. Would I make it again knowing everything that I know now? Probably not. That's no comment on the pattern. The pattern was excellent. I just think it was sort of a fail in my choosing the pattern and what looks flattering on me. So I'm going to enjoy it and wear it and love it. I just don't think it's super duper flattering for me and my shoulder and body type. So we'll see. I might grow to really love it. I sort of finished it in time for the change in weather, so it's going to start getting warmer and I might not need it anymore. So we'll see. So those are my two things off the needles. So the next thing that I'd like to talk about is my spinning. And I've done a fair amount this week because the Dunedin vest, the part that I got to was the shaping for the V-neck. When I went to go back to work this past week, when I came home, I knew that it was going to be a lot of keeping track of where I was in the pattern, and you know, I have to keep track of not only the row of the repeat that I'm on, but the row for the shaping for the V-neck, and then the row for the shaping for the underarm. I had to keep track of 3 things at once for a little bit. And I knew that in my haze of working all night and then having some time in the morning to relax and veg, I decided not to work on the Dunedin vest because I knew I would just have a fail. So what I did is that I work 3 days a week, usually to get 36 hours, which is my full-time job. I finished the bobbin of the border Leicester cross that I'm working on the Enhancement mini spinner. So the first day I finished the 2 bobbins that I had. I had one that needed maybe like 3 ounces left to be spun on it. And so then I let the second bobbin rest overnight, and then after my second day of work, because like 3 days in a row, I plied the first skein of the border Leicester cross. And the Enhancement mini spinner, the bobbins take about 8 ounces, so I can make a skein the size of my head, which is pretty awesome. I have yet to wash and whack this, so it might be a bit on the unbalanced side. Yeah, just a hair. You'll notice when I say unbalanced, hopefully you can kind of see this, the end of the skein kind of rotates a little. It doesn't lay, let me hold it kind of in the middle, it doesn't lay totally flat like this. It has a little bit of a twist. And usually you want to overply it just a hair when you ply your yarn, because when you wash and thwack it, that usually distributes the twist, and then you have a balanced yarn. And then another reason you want to slightly overply everything is that the action of taking it off the bobbin and, you know, widening it on a niddy-noddy sometimes takes a little bit of twist out. And I think I learned that from Judith McKenzie in one of the spinning videos that she had. I learned it in one of the spinning videos that I have on my computer, and I think it was a Judith one, because I think the only other one I have is a Abby Francomont one, and I don't think she told me that, but she might have. So I have 2 skeins now because the second day I applied the second skein. So skein number 1 was 222 yards pre-washing, and that's using my skein winder. And then the second skein is 220 yards. So I did a pretty good job creating, you know, pretty even skeins with this yarn. I'm curious to see how much it's going to bloom when I wash it. There's a little bit more on the bobbins that I have downstairs, and I believe the reason why I haven't washed and thwacked it yet is because I'm waiting for that third skein, which I don't think will be as long as these two, just because one of the bobbins that's down there has a bit less singles than the other. So that's those, and they're gigantic. Gosh, I love having gigantic skeins. That's one of the best parts about having not only a bulky flyer for my matchless, but a big Hanson mini spinner. So those are the Border Leicester Cross skeins, and I have I think another bag or 2 of the fiber left in the Rubbermaid that I have over to the right. So we'll have to see how much yarn I get. This may be another Rambouillet. And I brought up some more skeins of the Rambouillet, and I have to show you the bag. Hold on. Ugh, luckily it's with arm reach. So I keep my yarn in these Ziploc, these large Ziplocs, because I had a cat that liked to terrorize my yarn. She's not with us anymore, but I haven't gotten out of the habit of keeping them in this. So this is one of the large Ziploc bags that you see, and you can see that it's overflowing. And I still have a large skein like this, and then 2 smaller skeins, and then that's the entirety of that Rambouillet fleece. So that's that. And then I don't know if you can, maybe I'm going to move the camera just a hair. There we go. So, I usually keep my hand spun in that thin, these are IKEA bookcases that you see behind me, and the one that's in the middle, that's where I usually keep my hand spun, the top 3 shelves. I had a little brain fart there. And then I keep my fiber to the bookcase that's way to, let's see, it would be your left, so over there. That's where I keep all my fiber, except for the fleeces. Those I keep in the closet there. And then I have a Rubbermaid that has like one of the first fleeces that I got, that's over to the right. And then you might be able to, I don't know if you can because there's no preview video for me, but you might be able to see the skein winder that I have. Nobody's really expressed an interest in kind of seeing my stash room, so I haven't really all given you the grand tour. So I'm going to kind of move this back to where it was, nice and easy. Excellent. And then the other thing that I've been spinning is the sampling of the merino that I was telling you about. And then this is a little puff of the merino fleece. And this is for the Knitmore Girls, Knitmore Girls Spin Along, Knit Along. And this is the brown fleece that had patches of white. And so it's really pretty. And then I had this processed at Morrow Fleece Works. So that's that. Hopefully that's not too close so it's going out of focus for you. And so the way it's turning out, this is my matchless and the woolly winder that I have for it. So you can see I'm kind of spinning it on the thin side. I have to just kind of figure out the sweet spot for getting a worsted. I want to do at least a 3-ply. That's my goal. And on my phone I have what's called an iSpin toolkit, which I will pull up. and it has a wraps per inch tool. So like so. And so what you do is you take the single that you've spun, so I'm going to try and wrangle it here, and then you hold it over one of those white lines. Hopefully, let me get to the whiter ones so you can see that a little bit better. So like that, and then you hold it in front of the white line, and the one where you can see the white line and then there's two red lines on the end of the edges of the white lines. As long as you can see the red lines but not the white lines, that's the wraps per inch that you're getting. So then you use a little bit of math and figure out what you're going to get as a 2 or a 3 ply. And then I also have a low-tech version before I got the iSpin toolkit. This is just another way to do it. And again, you hold it over the wraps per inch that you're getting, and it looks like I'm getting about 28 wraps per inch here. So we'll see. And again, this is all sampling. I'm just spinning a little bit, and I'm going to spin a total of about 3 plies of this, and then I will ply them all together and wash them, and then see if that's going to give me the yarn that I want. And I used to be, really, I would get a little bent out of shape when I wouldn't get a consistent yarn. And it wasn't until I entered into last year's Black Sheep, and the one where Judith McKenzie was judging the Fiber Arts competition, and it wasn't until she said, and I know I'm not going to quote this word for word perfectly, but she said, you know, something along the lines of, it's hand spun, it's not going to be perfect, so, you know, just enjoy the process and love what you're doing. It wasn't until I heard that I kind of relaxed and wasn't so worried about getting everything super consistent, because I thought that I was supposed to get, you know, yarn that should be as good as commercial yarn. So, and it usually, like with this, it's going to even out in the end. I know there's spots where it's one ply is thicker than the other, like about there, but it's going to even out. Nobody's going to notice it. It's going to be beautiful, and you're still going to love it. So that is everything that I've been spinning, and I just heard my laundry beep, so I need to go flip it, and then I'll be back to show off the stash enhancement. So the stash enhancement that I have this week is some yarn that I'm really excited about. This isn't a new stash enhancement. This is something that my parents got me, actually. I think it was last August or so. Yeah, I think so. My parents decided to take a trip to England and kind of mainly focus their vacation on the southwestern side of England, and so I taught them how to use, they had their iPad, and I taught them how they could use Skype so they could call us using the Wi-Fi that they had access to. And while we were there, my mom was like, you know, we're in England, is there anything that you want us to bring you back? And I was like, well, let me do some research. And I got online, and I found that near where they were staying, and I don't exactly remember where they were at that point. I think it was closer to the western, the west of the place that I'm going to tell you about. But I knew that they were going to make their way towards the city of Penzance in Cornwall. And so I knew they were going to be there, and I said, here's an address. And I went on to the website, and I said, this is the yarn that I want. And could you get me 20 skeins of it? That would be awesome. And so what they ended up getting me is this. And this is from Cornish Wools Limited. And you can find them at www.cornishwools.co.uk. And this is 100% pure Cornish wool. And then the sheep breed that it's from is the Manx Loughton, and you may have seen the yarn harlot. I almost called her the sheep harlot. The yarn harlot, she is actually spinning some of this type of sheep fleece right now. And it's when she posted that I thought, I am going to show you guys this. So it's Aran Weight, and it's this nice squishy, it looks like let me look at the plies. It is a 3-ply yarn. This is 50 grams, and this is the natural fleece color. And when I told my mom that this is what I wanted, I went to the Fleece and Fiber source book. And this sheep fleece is from, I believe it's an island of England. Actually, let me go get the fleece book, and then I can tell you. So hold on. So this is the Fleece and Fiber source book, and this is a fabulous book. And the Manx Loughtons are on page 172 if you have this book. These sheep are from the Isle of Man, and this yarn is like the perfect combination of my husband's interests and my interests, because the Isle of Man hosts, I believe it's a motorcycle competition. Yeah, let's see. Yes. Oh, okay, so in the book, and I'm quoting this directly from the Fleece and Fiber source book, the Manx Loughtons were almost extinct 50 years ago, and though breed numbers have increased and stabilized since the 1970s, these sheep are still considered rare and at risk of extinction. So in 2001, at the height of the latest outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the United Kingdom, the island's parliament, the Tynwald, took action. They cancelled the Tourist Trophy motorcycle races, a series of events that were started in 1907 and had previously only been cancelled during World War II. The 37-mile mountain circuit race typically brings 40,000 visitors to the Isle of Man and is enormously important to the economy. Yet that year, the island's government felt the risk to the sheep was just too great to hold the event. In 2009, the Manx Loughtons breed received a different form of protection. The European Union recognized it with the protected designation of origin. The designation is designed to help reconnect farmers with the consumers and raise awareness of a unique product, crop, or animal. So that's how it's like totally... My husband, because he loves watching that race on TV, and he told me that he'd like to go to the Isle of Man and see this motorcycle race. Let's see, what can I tell you about this? Let's see. I'm going to show you the pictures of the fleece, what it looks like before. Hopefully you can see that. So that's what the fleece looks like. That's what the yarn looks like. I hope that you're getting this. The staple length's usually about 2.5 to 5 inches. It's it's got a micron count of 27 to 33. And it's usually a soft brown, and the tips tend to sun bleach to a lighter shade. So, soft brown. Lovely. So I'm really excited. I'm going to put the book on the ground so you might hear that. And here's my bag of Manx Loughton. So I thought maybe trying to find like a nice cable project for this would be my goal, but I haven't found the perfect thing on Ravelry just quite yet. So that's still searching for its most dream project, because I don't want to waste it, you know. So that's my stash enhancement that I'm really excited about, and that's it. So that's it for this week. Thank you all for joining me and watching the podcast. I believe next week we will have another podcast. I'm working, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, so I'll have the weekend free. Maybe I'll record Saturday, because my husband usually still works on Saturdays. He's kind of rearranged his schedule, so that should be the next time I podcast, so be on the lookout for that. And I'll see you all then. Bye!